Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the backstory. If you're new here, kindly hit that subscribe button and the notification bell down below so that you can be notified when we post a new video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a saying that goes that you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. You know, the Kenya Kwanza administration has been fooling Kenyans that the economy is stabilized and that they have money. This narrative has been peddled by the Kenya Kwanza administration to an extent that some Kenyans have bought the idea. But it is now becoming apparent that Kenya Kwanza administration has no money to run the government. And this idea has also gotten to a point that some of the Kenya Kwanza MPs have also come out boldly to question where money for CDF and money for running development for this country is. And today, both Kenya Kwanza MPs and Azimio MPs came out boldly and confronted the CS for Finance, NDUNG'U, to tell them when he is going to disburse CDF funds.
As of 9th January 2024, which is today, no single constituency has received a single cent of the NGCDF funds. None of us here have received no single member of parliament. By now, CDF allocation should be 35% of the, on bursaries, should be 35% of the CDF allocation, which translates to about 18.5 billion. No single cent has been disbursed in this respect, with the consequence that there are many pupils and students who are stranded all over this country. As we speak, CDF allocation for the year should be 63 billion shillings. Because we are in the third quarter, by now we should have received at least 75% of this money, which translates to just about 46 billion. To date, as of this date, no single amount has been received, despite all sorts of utterances that you may have heard elsewhere. So these false statements lead citizens to think that MPs have received money and they are sitting on it. We want to make it clear that we have not received it, and we urge the government to immediately release this entire amount of CDF allocation that we ought to have received. It is also important to note that by last year, through our speaker, the government gave commitment that CDF funds will have been fully released by 20th of December. And there was an official communication by our speaker to that effect. It is clear that they misled our speaker, they misled the National Assembly, and they misled the people, and that's unfortunate. Secondly, there's a CDF memo dated 4th January 2024, and members of the press might be aware of this. This CDF memo was directed to all CDF account managers countrywide. It was directing them that money cannot be released because there were certain amendments to the CDF Act, as a result of which they were supposed to recall the proposals that they had made and redo it and resubmit it. We want to say categorically that in our opinion, that memo is misguided, it's unlawful, and it is improper, and it must be withdrawn. The first reason is, yes, there were certain amendments to the CDF Act towards the end of last year, actually in the months of November going to December. Those amendments essentially affected only two things. They affected the question of sports and the question of the Constituency Oversight Committee. In our opinion, the material date that must be applied is 1st July 2023, when the financial year begins. And the law as at that date is the law that must apply to CDF until we get to 1st July 2024. As of that date, there were no amendments. So to issue a memo purporting you cannot issue CDF funds because of amendments in December 2023 is mischievous, is misleading, and it's unlawful. In any event, that would amount to what in law we call retroactivity. No law ever operates behind. It operates going forward. And if it's to operate behind, it must be expressly stated. The amendments and the Act does not purport to say that they will take effect from 1st July 2023. Secondly, even if that argument was to be believed, those amendments only affect sports and the Constituency Oversight Committee, which is just about 6% or so of the overall allocation of CDF. If that was true, they'd have released the 94% of CDF and indicated that they will withhold the 6% pending adjustment. They cannot withhold or return the entire proposal on that account. Thirdly and lastly, if that argument was true, then it would mean they cannot disburse any money. How then is it that we are getting statements saying they've disbursed certain amounts of money? Either you can disburse or you cannot disburse. You cannot say I cannot disburse, then on the other hand you say I've disbursed a certain amount of money. So our position is clear that that memo must be withdrawn. The CDF funds must be released. Way forward. As a bipartisan team comprising all members of the House from both sides, we demand that the entire allocation of CDF must be released within 7 days as is due. And if that is not done, we will call for a special sitting of the House. When we call for a special sitting, secondly, we will then draft appropriate motions against the CS Treasury and against the CDF board or any such other entity as we may determine at the time. Thank you. Do you want to summarize?
Mmeona leo hapa hakuna uzo ya Kenya Kwanza, hakuna uzo ya Azimio. Nyuzo zote ni za Wanakenya. Na sisi ni wabunge ambayo tuna represent every constituency katika nchi yetu ya Kenya. Mwanafunzi anatoka kwa constituency A ambayo iko chini ya mbunge wa Azimio, wamemuita kwa high school ya constituency B ambayo iko kwa Kenya Kwanza. So we have no face. Sisi ni wabunge ambayo tumekuja hapa. Kitu cha kwanza, sisi wabunge tunajua haki zetu kama bunge. Hii pesa ya CDF imepewa second chance, inaangaliwa kama second chance. Kwa nini tunaweza pata pesa iende kwa department zingine ili hali CDF ambayo inasaidia kila mwanafunzi? Shule hazina madarasa saa hii tukisema hivi. Wana rely kwa bunge kuchenga hizo. Up to now acha tuma hiyo pesa. We are telling government, nawaambia leo kwamba sisi hatutaki Kiswahili, hatutaki Kiingereza ya CS. Kwanza walifanya speaker wetu wa bunge akatudanganya kama katika bunge. Akasema tarehe 22 mwezi wa 12. CS walimpatia statement. Tarehe 20 mwezi wa 12 tuliambiwa na speaker wa bunge kwamba pesa itakuwa hit the accounts ya constituencies zetu zote Kenya. Up to now mpaka saa hivi tunaongea hivi. Walifanya speaker wetu akatuambia, na speaker akiongea katika kiti chake cha bunge ni sheria. Haliongea kama sheria, ametoa sheria lenye halikufanyika. Sasa CS wa Treasury tunakuambia saa hii, jioni hii tunataka pesa 75% kwa imeingia kwa account. Hatoi kuambiwa iko kwa board ama iko wapi. Sisi tunajua CDF account zetu hasina pesa. Wanafunzi wataka kwenda nyumbani. Kila mbunge vile ako hapo akienda shuleni. Kila mbunge ambaye yako Kenya, ukienda kwa boma lake utapata kila uniform. Iko kwa compound ya kwa waiting benches. Kila shule iko hapo, wanafunzi wataka usaidizi. Where are we going to get this money? Asante sana.
But we are also talking about NGAF, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund. And the National Government Affirmative Action Fund is the fund that is under the women representatives. And we just want to say that as members of parliament, both male and female, those in single constituencies and those from counties, as the members have said, we are tired of people crowding our homes. We are tired of being added to WhatsApp groups. We are here as servants of the people. And when our people are suffering, we must speak. And because of that, we want to tell Treasury that we are not joking. And we are going to take them head on. When it comes to issues regarding Kenyans, we don't joke. We are going to take you head on. And please release that money today. Because we are not going to have young people missing chances in national schools. Then we start writing stories like the ones we are seeing. This boy came with a metal box. I was dinner fee. We created a WhatsApp group. These are issues that should be history. When we have funds, release those funds so that we don't have children standing with billboards like prisoners, like people who have been charged by DCI, standing with those billboards. I am 14 years old. I do not have money. And there is money here. Please release the money we need to let our children go to school. We are not joking. Many of us have left our constituencies when we saw that there is this Kamkunji. And you better take us seriously. And we also want to say, kindly stop trying to intimidate members. Our first call is to our constituents.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, those are MPs from both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza asking the CS for Finance, NDUNG'U, to release the funds. Remember, just some months ago, the president himself, that was last month in December, President Ruto himself told the Kenyans that they had released money for CDF. That was around December 6th, that they had released money for CDF and no one was going to complain. But apparently, this is a political statement that was done by President Ruto. But earlier, if you remember, NJUGUNA came out and told Kenyans that Kenya is broke. They cannot pay salaries. They are unable to pay for CDF, and that they were collecting money so as to release CDF fund to members of parliament. And he asked members of parliament while he was addressing a committee, a finance committee in parliament, to bear with him.
So in a sense, we are struggling just to be on the same position. And that's why we actually, that's the same message I had in Marrakech, was that we are facing a serious liquidity crisis, and that is why we can't come in as fast as we would like to. But it's not a solvency problem. But sometimes people are rushed to say, we want the money today, otherwise you are dead on arrival. Sorry for using that word. But you end up taking measures to solve the problem, but those measures are not well coordinated and they can actually ignite solvency challenges. We want to avoid that. But we are working very hard so that even before Christmas, we make sure that we make some few steps. By the way, I can tell you, we are even having trouble with salaries. We are clearing salaries with arrears. Okay? You know, just imagine that. The first thing we can do, and you are familiar with this story, is that we cannot default on external debt because our credibility is going to be ruined. It takes the first charge. But the team in the Treasury are working very hard. In fact, that's what I started looking at in the morning. I was even called by the governor in Nairobi County telling me that, look, I'm going to be impeached. What are we going to do? I have not given salaries. You can imagine it's a liquidity issue which is short term, but we are going to get there. We are going to get there very soon. We are working very hard round the clock to make sure that we are doing that. Most countries have recognized what kind of economies like ours, especially in the Horn of Africa, are facing the same problem, and they are coming up with budget support. We are signing supports from different countries. So we are going to ride over this. But in the meantime, we are just begging for a little bit of time. We are working 24 hours to make sure that we resolve this. And we want to make sure that how we resolve it also does not ignite solvency challenges.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is CS Finance NDUNG'U telling parliamentarians that there is no money at the Treasury. And that, in a way, is, in quotes, telling Kenyans that Kenya is broke. But the political angle of Kenya Kwanza is telling us that the economy has stabilized. So who do we believe? The guy who is handling our granary or our pocket, or the political angle of Kenya Kwanza? Remember, the members of parliament who have come out today boldly to ask for CDF money, some of them are also Kenya Kwanza members of parliament. So there is something that they know that we don't know. That thing that they know is that there is no money, and money has not been sent. Previously, by now, by December, money would have been sent to constituencies to sort out matters to do with bursaries and all that, such that come January, students will report to school with checks and all that, or with commitment letters. But up to now, bursary has not been dispersed to constituencies, to the members of parliament. Remember, around December 6th, President Ruto told Kenyans that he had released CDF money to members of parliament and that they should not worry. But during that very, very time is when NJUGUNA and NDUNG'U also told Kenyans that, told members of parliament to bear with them because there was no money at the treasury. But the big question here is, where is the money that the Kenya Kwanza administration has borrowed over time? Remember, Kenya Kwanza administration has borrowed close to 2.5 trillion since they came into power 2 years back. They've also collected tax for this. So that is close to 3-point-something trillion. But the question is, where is that money? Remember, there is no development that is going on that we can call major infrastructural development that we can say that has consumed part of that money. Infrastructural developments that started during Uhuru Kenyatta's era was stopped by the Kenya Kwanza administration. There is no flagship project that has been started by the Kenya Kwanza administration that can consume over 2-point-something trillion. So where is the money? Where is the money that cannot even pay for CDF? Last month, the education sector, that is the Ministry of Education, was in limbo. They didn't know how they were going to run. Schools could not tell parents if they had received money, which is allocation from the government, to fund free primary education and education in high school and primary and high school. Until the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga came out and talked about it, is when Kenya Kwanza administration released money to schools. But they did not release the whole amount, they released part of it. So the question is, where is the money? And is Kenya broke? And if Kenya is broke, then the Kenya Kwanza administration needs to tell Kenyans that we are broke instead of lying to Kenyans. But one message that has come out strongly that the Kenya Kwanza administration needs not to ignore is the fact that the members of parliament who came out today were both from Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, which sends a very serious signal to William Ruto that he can lie to his fans, but he cannot lie to them all the time. Some of the members of parliament have come to realize that whatever is going on is like a facade. No one is telling them the truth, and they cannot carry that burden to the electorates down there. They are becoming unpopular because of the lies of this administration. So the earlier the Kenya Kwanza administration tells the Kenyans the truth, the better. That is it from me today, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, goodbye.